All right, Dan. 3, 2, 1. You're live.
Who is getting swept in Major League Baseball today, and how are we going to make some money betting it? You're going to find that out right now on First Pitch. Dan Alexander here, and letting you know on that one is my man Bryan. Leonard. Tigers are 10-3 on the road this season, my man Bryan, and they're looking to complete the sweep today. Should we keep the brooms in the closet, or are we taking them out tonight? What do you think?
I like the way this Detroit team is playing. I got to be honest with you. Jack Flaherty's been a solid addition to the Tigers' rotation this year. He struggled in St. Louis last season with a 4.99 ERA, 1.58 WHIP. But just about everyone who leaves the Cardinals has improved after they get out of St. Louis, and that's what we've seen here. His ERA has dropped to half a run, and his WHIP is down to 1.11. in his first 4 starts. Now, according to Savant, his breaking ball run value is in the 98th percentile, his whiff rate is in the 95th percentile, and his strikeout and walk percentage is 36.5 to 3.9. Now, our only concern here with Flaherty is his fastball. His fastball run value is in the 2nd percentile, and he throws his four-seamer 41.5% of the time. Eventually, that's going to come back and hurt him, but we still like this team today with him on the mound. The Detroit bullpen looks fresh tonight, as only one pitcher has thrown more than once in the last 3 days, and it's going to be a bullpen day for the Rays, who start Sean Armstrong on the hill. He's a solid MLB pitcher, but it will likely go just 2 innings or less. In 8 games this year, he has pitched 11 total innings, with this being his 3rd time as the opener. The most consistent hitters in this Tampa Bay lineup of guys that weren't on the team last year. 2 former Cleveland players, Ahmad Rosario and Richie Palacios, who also played for Pittsburgh. And the 3rd most consistent starter, according to StatCast, is Jose Caballero, who played for Seattle. So the guys who have been with Tampa for the last few years just are not hitting. The first baseman, Diaz, he had all that problems all those years. He hit the ball really hard, but he hit it on the ground. He's hitting it on the ground once again this year, and he's leading off for this team. That is something that has hurt Tampa Bay. Their veteran players just haven't got it going. We like Detroit in this one. I think the price is right for Jack Flaherty, who's pitching much better this season.
The price is right, says my man Bryan. Leonard in that one. Detroit, the side that he is eyeing. It seems like road teams might be the trend here early in the show, because we want to talk your Washington Nationals, Steve. And I have to think that you're going to give me a breakdown here on the Dodgers, because I'm pretty sure that Shohei Ohtani's homer that he hit yesterday is still in the air. I mean, that thing was screaming. I think I read, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the fastest exit velocity for a Dodgers team or a Dodgers player like in the modern era. That was a hell of a hit, Steve. You think you're going to see more of that here today in Washington?
Yeah, StatCast didn't begin until 2015, so maybe one had been hit harder before that, but it is technically the hardest ever since they started tracking it 9 years ago. It went to the upper deck, 450 feet beyond right field. I wish I had been at the game last night. That would have been pretty cool to see. With that said, though, the Dodgers still offensively have not been crushing the ball. They only had 4 runs last night. This is a team that, offensively as stacked as any modern lineup we've ever seen, including the StatCast era. With that said, though, what's their record this year? What is it, 14-11 now? The Nationals, meanwhile, maybe once again my Washington Nationals are 10-12. That's actually a victory for the Nationals, and the money line is a great equalizer. Nationals are over +5 units this season. Dodgers are down 7.5 units despite having the winning record. Nationals the losing record. So there has been value with the Nationals, and there's definitely been value fading the Dodgers. I do think LA is probably the play tonight on the side, but I'm actually going to look at the total for the preferred value in this game, and I like the under 9.5. Now, it does concern me that this is a quick rematch from last week when Knack and Irving faced each other, so the hitters will be very familiar. That is a concern. So I would play the full game under, definitely not the first 5, because maybe the hitters have a little bit of an edge against these starters. But both bullpens have been good this year. In fact, the Nationals surprisingly have a better bullpen ERA than the Dodgers, but the Dodgers on the road have been very strong with a 3.1. And talking about that LA offense, once again, underachieving. I love to look at road stats because it takes in all different types of ballparks. Dodgers in their 8 road games this year, averaging just 4 runs a game, hitting just 248 as a team. Nationals in all games this year, 3.5 runs, 237, including just 3.3, 233 average at home. So neither offense has been great. To put this in perspective, the Dodgers now have single-digit hits in 10 of their last 11 games. Nationals, meanwhile, have single-digit hits in 6 of their last 7. And once again, it was a 4-1 game last night. So I look for a pitching battle here. Landon Dakota Knack makes his second career start. That was his debut last week against the Nationals. Fared pretty well overall. And he was good in the minors as well. In fact, he has 53 starts in 58 games in his minor league career, a 1.15 whip, pretty solid number, 277 strikeouts in just 243 innings. And he's a fun guy to root for. Played JUCO college for a couple years and then got to his dream school of East Tennessee State. He grew up in Johnson City, Tennessee. And this was a guy they called a late bloomer. He was thrown like in the high 80s. Then all of a sudden, a couple years later, he's hitting in the mid-90s, as high as 97, 98. So he's continuing to progress. I think he could have some upside here in the near future. And I like the under 9.5 here. 9 is a very key number, and it's priced high because the Dodgers are technically so explosive on paper, but we have yet to see that this season. And I like the under 9.5. And right as I do this, it was 9.5 minus 15. A lot of the sharper books are now 9.5 minus 20. So I would lock it in sooner than later. Could hit that key number of 9 before this game goes at 6:45 Eastern.
Yeah, it took the words out of my mouth. If you want to bet that under, definitely run, do not walk, as the leading indicator books, so to speak, are definitely trending towards falling onto that key number of 9. And just as Steve was saying, you take a look at recent form. Washington 7-2 with a push towards the under, even at some lower totals. So the home side there hasn't really seen many runs racking up as of late. Shout out to the chat here. We got Juan, FB, Coach Ace, Rothstein, Tyler. We appreciate you guys in there. Keep dropping your best bets, your favorite plays below. We already have some folks lining up to ask some questions. So, Bryan, even before the show started, they wanted to get your thoughts on the Cleveland Guardians, as they are favorites hosting Boston Red Sox today. It's Criswell, it's Carrasco. That's the pitching matchup in that one. And low 8, even though we've seen some over money. Thoughts on this game, Bryan?
Cleveland's playing really well. Somewhat a surprise to myself, but I've read everything about them. They really get along well. Once Bieber went down, I thought that was going to really hurt him. And actually, the pitching staff, you take Carrasco's going today. On a normal pitching staff, he would probably be the number 5 starter. He's getting up there in years. He's had injury problems. But other than really Tanner Bybee, who's probably a number 2, number 3 at most of these major league teams, they've got a lot of guys at the back end of the starting rotation who are really pitching very well. The back end of the bullpen, let me tell you, once you get to the 7th inning, you're done. The Cleveland back of the bullpen has been tremendous. Boston's a team. Criswell's not that well known, but he's a decent pitcher. Boston against Cleveland here. I would play the Cleveland side here. It's about where it opened, about 140. Now we're looking at anywhere from 135 to 140. Cleveland's playing well right now, and they seem to have Boston's number. I think Cleveland with Carrasco right now is a pretty good bet.
And this one painted across the WagerTalk live odds screen, sitting at 7.5 over, slightly juiced in some spots. Steve, any feelings on the total? Because our man Ace Rothstein, he's saying, if I'm looking at this game, it seems a tick too low, sitting at 7.5. Any thoughts on that one?
Well, just like we said, 9 was a key number, 7 is a key number. For those that are new to baseball betting, the odd numbers are key because games can't end in a tie. So when it's 4-4, it goes to extra innings, it has to land 9 or higher. When it's 3-3, it has to go to extra innings, has to land 7 or higher. So 6 and 8, 10 for that reason. Those are less likely than the odd numbers. So whenever I see a 7.5, I'm always kind of looking for a reason for the under. The problem is that's a pretty low total, considering pitchers don't hit in either league anymore. We don't see a lot of 7.5s. Now, Cleveland's bullpen, as is the case with a lot of teams, are off to good or bad starts. Cleveland's had one of the best bullpens in the league, if not the best this year. 2.1 ERA overall, 1.01 whip. And that's why they've been a nice little underplay, although they've actually gone over in 14 of their 22 games with one push. So, the bullpen, the offensive numbers, they've been putting a lot of runs up with a mediocre batting average, but that does look like a low total. And I'm not a big believer in the Red Sox starter in Criswell. The guy's only made 3 starts in the majors during 14 appearances, 1.6 whip. And I love to look at minor league numbers, as I mentioned, with Knack for the Dodgers, because they usually translate to if the guys are good or not in the pros and in big leagues. And he was very mediocre in MLB minors. He had 70 starts down there over multiple years and had a 4.3 ERA, which would be like over a 5. And guess what? He has a 5.7 now in the big league. So I don't like the starter for the Red Sox. So that's why I'd be a little hesitant on that under.
The under, maybe pause a little bit. Sometimes if it is too good to be true, it's exactly that, as it's sitting on 7.5. That's the thoughts for Steve Merril. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what totals you are eyeing here today. And while you're hanging out with us, make sure you hit that like button. If you're joining us on Instagram, make sure you hit that follow. We would greatly appreciate it. We do have best bets coming up. We want to know what your best bets are, whether you're watching live or on the rewatch. Hop below in the chat and let us know on that one. The chat guys, I know they're not your bags, but they love the parlays. And my man, the Celine 786 Cubs money line. He wants to lay it with the Thunder 6.5. That's the plays for him. He also likes the Celtics laying it and the Thunder money line. Stay tuned to the NBA show. We'll touch upon that. But as far as the Cubs money line goes, could that be a parlay buster? What do you think, Bri?
First of all, I got a couple things to mention. Today, as opposed to a lot of the days that we've had these shows, looks like there's going to be no rain in the forecast. Very small amount of rain. No game's going to be rained out. No game's going to be delayed. And that Cleveland game, it looks like it's going to be 42 degrees. So it's a night game in Cleveland, 42 degrees. That will help keep this total going under. And I got to mention it because we talked about Knack earlier. Okay, I'm an old guy. This is my humor. I think Washington is going to knick-knack, so throw that dog a bone.
Whoa.
Knick-knack, paddywhack.
The Nationals.
Don't
let your cat hear that, Brian. Don't let your cat hear that. Get up
on
you again.
It took me a while to remember that, but...
He's got it's the mortal lock, whenever you have a nursery rhyme that ties in with the play, people love throwing out the locks, you know what I mean? That can't lose, Steve. I mean, whenever you got a nursery rhyme. Is there anything?
Yeah, that's a Goldilocks
out there.
Goldilocks.
Yeah.
Is that a Goldilocks?
Just right.
Look what you started.
Yeah, I tried settling in on the bed. It was a little too firm. Tried the couch, and now I'm going to try the under, and that one seems just right. Some way, somehow we got there. The chat's asking us for player props. I'll scour the board and get you a player prop before we're done here on the show today. Steve, I know that's something that you dabble in a bit. Anything that jumped out at you as far as, just when I was hearing Bryan talk about Carrasco, maybe you want to look towards some overs there, but the numbers don't really make sense for me. Is that anything that you eye, or does it really, if you like a player, you fit it into your handicap in a different way? Any player props that stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I handicap players as far as pitchers more than any sport, but it really goes into the overall side for totals for me for the game itself. I will say this, NBA playoffs, I'm doing daily videos for every game, every day. I am giving out a lot of player prop information in the NBA playoffs. So check out those videos for some NBA playoff props here on WagerTalk TV. And quickly on that Houston-Chicago game, the Astros have been the biggest money burner in baseball this year. We talk about the Dodgers off to a disappointing 14-11 start. Astros are 7-17. I've been saying it for weeks now. The bullpen's not right. They've gotten the ERA down a little bit over the last couple of weeks to 5.3. But this is still a team that's 7-17. If you're waiting for them just to flip a switch, they've gone 1-6 their last 7. So I would be very careful with them. And offensively, 9 hits or less in 6 of those 7 games. So we need to see them turn the corner before I start backing them in a parlay or not in a parlay. So I wouldn't disagree with the Cubs in that situation. But once again, with the parlays, unless they're correlated, they make no sense. You're not changing the math by parlaying 2 money line favorites together. You're better off just playing them separate. Unless the side and total are somewhat codependent, I would stay away from the parlays in general.
Yeah, I hear what you're laying down there. It's just, the folks, especially the people tuning in Everybody loves that plus money. Everybody loves, So I'm with you, Steve. I hear you.
Hey, Dan, I will say this, all seriousness, though, the one edge, I don't say an edge because the math doesn't work still, but I will say from a risk-reward perspective, I don't totally disagree with parlays for that reason. I'm not a big believer laying -2 or -300 on a money line. So if you can take two of them and get it into like a plus money or an even money parlay, from a risk money management's perspective, I don't totally disagree with that logic. So I guess you can make a case for it that reason.
That's Steve Merril. Check him out, WT.buzz/SM. Bryan Leonard, you can find him at WagerTalk, WT.buzz/BL. And tomorrow you can get best bets just $5. Each handicapper will have a play loaded for just $5. So pick your favorite capper. I suggest these two guys joining me here and ride with them for just $5. A little customer appreciation day special that's rocking tomorrow. We'll be with you early on in the morning with Tokyo Brandon, and Adam Trigger tomorrow morning. Guys, speaking of the chat, the team that always gets some love, especially when we have our man Raven Ron hopping in, I think every day he just Baltimore first five, Baltimore game. Well, Baltimore's looking to have the bounce back because the Angels finally snapped that losing streak that they were rolling with. So, Bryan, I'll start with you on this one. I want to get your thoughts as well, Steve, since you're at least in the area down there. Is it the bounce back spot here today, or did the Angels finally show a little something for you, Bryan? What do you think?
The Angels, when Trout was hot, they were winning. He did hit a home run yesterday. He led off the game with a home run. But he also, that was the only time he got on base. When Trout is hot, the Angels are a team I want to bet on, especially when they have him batting in the top 3 or 4 in the lineup, which he always does anyway. But in this one, I don't really like it. The Angels are throwing a lefty, and I talked about that the other day. Baltimore's not going to they're going to bring in their bench guys to face lefties, but they've been experienced ball players that have started in the past. So I don't think it's a bad situation. I really don't have anything here, but I know you had a question about props. I'm not big on props. I bet them rarely, but I've been fading Aaron Judge. He keeps coming out crazy numbers. It was about 3-1 today to hit a home run. He hasn't hit a home run. He hasn't been very good. And if you take a look at Joe Boyle, who's starting for Oakland, one thing he has done in Major League Baseball, and he does walk a lot of guys, I'll tell you that, but barrel percentage, last year, 2.5, this year 1.8. League average is 6.9. You don't really hit this guy hard, and he doesn't give up home runs. And so I laid the 3-1 or whatever it was on Judge not to hit a home run tonight, and I bet that myself. So if anybody wants to lay a little bit of juice, I think the value in these home run props is to play not to happen as opposed to taking a long shot and trying to get one. So that's a good prop for me here.
Yeah, 1,000%. And people also, love throwing in those home run props. I know it's fun. I mean, the best part of a home run prop is when you get to hit it and brag to your buddies about it. So if you're betting those, I suggest betting them small because that's needle in a haystack personified. For me, guys, we didn't quite touch upon yet this Marlins and Braves game. So I'll get your guys' thoughts on it as a whole, as a few people are asking about that. But that one for me makes a heck of a lot of sense to look towards Lopez on the bump for the Bravos in this one. He's only opposed the Marlins once, but it was way back in 2019. So you throw that out the window, and you're looking at a guy who's going against a hitting lineup that is just absolutely dormant. So that kind of figures to me he could be going a little deep, a little juicy if you want to play his strikeouts over. It's 4.5 is the number. I like that, but do I want to lay -160 on a player prop? Not really my favorite. So if you think he's going to go deep over 15.5, I would for outs recorded. That's something that I would look at, only -125. I wish I was getting the 14.5 because the math makes a little bit more sense there. But I think Lopez is going to play some innings in this one. So that also lets you know that I think the Bravos probably going to get it done against the Marlins. Steve, anything for you on that game?
No, I mean, this goes back to what we've talked about a lot on the show. Baseball is unlike basketball and football, which are point spread sports. You could say, well, that line is too high. A team could lose, but still cover and cash for you. In baseball, unless you're using a run line, which becomes more of a point spread, you have to pick the straight up winner. It doesn't matter if the Braves are -700, -7,000. If they win, you still win a unit. And yes, I'm not looking to go against them, especially after shutting out Miami the last 2 games, 8-0. With that said, though, I do think it's a little pricey at minus 240. I prefer to always get this down to the run line. You can get it down to minus 1.5, minus 125 range. And they've won the 2 games 8-0 the last 2 nights. So most likely if they win, they're going to win by margin. And the Marlins do not have any backdoor cover potential with that miserable offense. As we've talked about in other sports, if you're taking an ugly underdog, you want backdoor cover potential, and that usually means offense. And the Marlins definitely do not have that tonight.
Best bets coming up. We got best bets in Seattle and Texas and in the A's and Yankees game. So as you've been asking about that, those games are going to be touched upon in the best bets coming up here from Bryan and Steve. One promotion that that sportsbooks, a lot of the time when they throw out those flashy lights, it's a negative EV play, so to speak. But one that I think is fun is one that they do in the NFL where it's like if your team gets up by 7, your bet automatically cashes, and it gets ended up being correlated with teams that either have high team totals or games that have high totals. So Miami Heat 1 is in the chat as his Miami Heat are still clinging on against the Boston Celtics. But he was asking any thoughts on that up for 2 promo, seeing value anyway with teams with high team totals. So again, my suggestion would be correlate it with a team that looks like they have a high total against a bad offense. The game that we just talked about there, a Braves up by 2 promo. If they do have a backdoor cover, that could be something potentially there. But Bryan, any teams that you think maybe first 5 might get out to a lead, that could be worth, getting a little bit protection that whether they win, whether they lose, if they get a 2-run lead, you're cashing your wager.
Yeah, I haven't looked at that yet, but I do think in this Toronto-Kansas City game, I like both these starters, and we're looking at a total of 8.5 here. So if I was looking at one of the games to play under, I think I might play that. Kansas City is not a place that gives up a lot of home runs, and actually Toronto hasn't hit many home runs. So that's what I would take out of that one. But yeah, I don't do a lot of that. I'm probably not the person to ask about that.
So, Steve, I'm just wondering for you, any teams that you think might jump out to a lead here that, could potentially, and again, it doesn't even just have to be jumping out to a lead. It's at any point during the game. If you have a 3-run knock, and you get a margin by 2, boom, your bet is cashed. Do you think that there is actually, any merit to betting something like that? Or is it just, hey, my bet got up by 2, I get to cash. It's a little bit of protection on a wager. Any thoughts on that, Steve? Because every day the chat's asking, which one are we betting on this first to 2? So, or to lead by 2, excuse me.
Yeah, there's 2 ways to approach it, I think. You kind of touched on them. First of all is you want to take a team that has a huge mismatch. Atlanta, Miami's as big as it gets. Miami might be the worst team in the league. Atlanta might be the best team this year. By the way, the Braves are the only team total. There's a lot of 2.5s, 1.5s for first 5 team totals. The Braves are the only ones juiced to the over 2.5 for a first 5, which tells you something there. But the one that actually they don't have a line on, it would be higher, would probably be 3, is the Colorado-San Diego game, because the over-under on that game is 11, at least 11.5. So the Coors Fields games are always worth a look, even if they're an even matchup, because there's so many runs scored that one team can just explode in a given inning. So that's something else to keep an eye on, is Colorado, maybe even Arizona at times can be a real hitter's park. So you want to look at mismatches, and obviously Heat Celtics, qualifying the NBA tonight. But I think you also want to look at high-scoring games in general, because in any sport, when there's more runs, there's more points. Great. That allows a team to go up by a bigger margin just for the ebb and flow of the game. So just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that's a terrific point. Love that breakdown there from Steve Merril. Throw the man a like here on the video, and if you want to get his thoughts on the NBA, you can tune in later this evening live or check out Steve doing a daily video breaking down every game on the NBA card. So definitely check that out. All right, Bryan, we waited long enough to hear your thoughts. The dog whisperer, even though truly you are the cat whisperer. But I want to get your thoughts here on the Mariners in this one. Yes, the Cesar Millan of cats. That's my man, Bryan Leonard. They're opposing Texas here tonight, and Seattle, nice decent little plus money. It's a small little barking chihuahua, but you think that might just be the value side there. Why is that, Bryan?
Before I get to the play, I just want to point out something I just realized. When you're playing team to take a 2-0 lead, something like that, I would play the underdogs, because the farther a game goes on, the more of a chance for the better team to extend themselves. How many times when the Yankees had their dynasty were they losing the entire game, all of a sudden in the 7th and 8th inning, they started hitting, and then they come back and win? And because I'm a dog player, and I know how that was. So if you like an underdog, play them early. Play that, get up by 2 runs, something like that. Play them in the first inning. But as the game goes on to that 9 innings, the better team will show up. To get back to my best bet today, I'm going to take a look at this Seattle-Texas game. Bryce Miller had a solid rookie season for the Mariners, and many felt he was going to break out this season. And so far, so good for the Mariners righty. A 1.85 ERA, a 0.82 whip in his first 4 starts. His savant numbers are outstanding. He's in the 96th percentile in his overall pitching run value, and his fastball is coming in at the same 96th percentile. His off-speed run value is having a 91st percentile season. In his last 3 starts, he has allowed just 1 earned run in 19.1 innings of pitching, and that is also 7 hits allowed in those 19 innings of work. He's been really good so far. Julio Rodriguez struggled early on. He's still not hitting for a lot of power. Hit a home run yesterday, I believe. But he's starting to break out of his early season slump, and this club is starting to play up to their talent level. And we've talked about this in the past from an offensive standpoint from Seattle, because of the backdrop there. They don't seem to see the ball very well. So if you like unders, I would play him in Seattle. If you like overs, I would play Seattle on the road in that regard. So if you do like the Seattle bats here, and this is a pretty good hitting park in Texas, John Gray currently has a career high exit velocity of 90.7 miles an hour. His barrel percentage is a whopping 15.1, twice as high as his career numbers. His walk percent is also very high at 11.4. He comes in with a 3.15 ERA, but his expected ERA is 5.9. I think we could fade Gray and have some success in this one. He's clearly a fade, and the Texas bullpen is also a concern in this one. His 4 relievers threw a combined 76 pitches yesterday. So give us Seattle in this one. I like the price. I like the pitching matchup. Now, John Gray could come out and regress to a positive regression here, but I don't see it. I like the way Seattle's playing, and I really like this price on this game.
Yeah, you can't argue with the price there. Seattle money line, the play for my man Bryan Leonard. And tomorrow he'll have a play locked and loaded that you can ride with him for just $5. A little customer appreciation. If you appreciate these guys, make sure you hit that bell. You're subscribed. You got your notifications on. And if you're checking us out on Twitter, on Instagram, hit that follow, folks. Come on. It's the littlest you can do. As a big thanks to these guys as we run down the card, answering your chats. Getting you the actionable info that you know and love. We appreciate you. We'd love to see them likes as an appreciation for these guys. Steve Merril, man, you deserve some likes for the last 4 days. 8-0. That's 0.0. No abacus needed. Sweep the last 4 days on the best bets. Perfect 5-0 to start the NBA playoffs. So if people aren't watching your NBA video, they just they don't like money. And if they're not watching here on First Pitch, similar thing. Athletics and the Yankees. Maybe the question mark series after that first game for the A's. You think the total is the play in this one? Tell the folks what we're betting, Steve.
You're going to look at a free play in this A's-Yankees game in just a moment. Quick reminder, I have a bonus free play tonight, a side selection for you up right now in an American League game as well, a game I did not give it on any of the shows today. A bonus free play on my page for Wednesday Baseball, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. You get there quicker with that shortcut right there, wt.buzz/SM. And while you're there, check out 5 advanced NBA playoff best bets, 1 for tonight on Wednesday, 3 for tomorrow and Thursday. And I've also got a Friday game up already for my clients. When you're direct clients, you get the plays the minute they're released. They're emailed and texted directly to you. And you might want to pay attention. In the history of Wager Talk, no one's won more units in the NBA than I have. I'm ranked number 1 again this year in the NBA, and I'm off to a perfect 5-0 in the NBA playoffs. We've also gone 3-0 in baseball since the playoffs began on Saturday. So that is an 8-0 sweep the last 4 nights. I've got strong best bets now for several more days going in the NBA, a free play in baseball tonight, And while you're there, check out the next 3 months plus 100 days of service for just $5 a day. No promo code needed. If you want a smaller package, we do have a buy 3, get a 4th day free. Just fantastic offers right now. Best bets are crushing it, along with those daily free plays. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. Another game I'm going to give you for free here on the show is the under between the A's and Yankees. Yankees A's under 8.5 minus $1.15. Would have liked to have gotten that key number of 9, but the under is still the only way to look. To be honest, the under is the only way to look in any Oakland game. We've talked about that a lot this year. They're 11-12 to the under with a push, so they've been kind of a 50-50 team. So you got to pick your spots, and I think this could be a good one tonight. First of all, I expect their offense, which is a terrible offense. The only reason they have wins this year is because they begin some good pitching, and their bullpen has been very strong, 2.8 ERA, one of the best in baseball. But they're still a terrible offensive team. They've had 7 hits or less now in 5 straight games. They've had 7 hits or less now in 7 of their last 8 games overall. So Schmidt should be able to shut them down tonight. The big question mark here is Joe Boyle for the A's. He has a tendency to be good. He has a tendency to be bad. But the Yankees' offense has been very mediocre once again this year. And for several years now, they live and die by the long ball. Boyle gives up more walks than anything, but he can strike guys out. And the Yankees do have a strikeout problem. When they're not hitting it over the fence, they're often striking out, which is kind of the risk-reward when you're a power-hitting team. So I look for Boyle to have a good outing here to bounce back after a subpar showing. The last time he had a bad outing this season, he had back-to-back good starts, and I look for one tonight. So I like Yankees A's under 8.5 minus $1.15, a free play for you on Wednesday. And don't forget a bonus free play in baseball. I didn't give it out on any shows or videos. It's on my page right now, along with NBA best bets for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 5 NBA best bets locked and loaded after a perfect 5-0 start in the playoffs. Not a surprise, number 1 all time in the NBA. And if you want more NBA, check out the live show today at 4 o'clock Eastern. We'll take viewer questions. And also check out my daily NBA breakdown every game, every day for the entire playoffs for the next 2 months here on WagerTalk TV. So hit subscribe and hit the bell for instant alerts so you never miss out.
That's Steve Merril under in the A's and Yankees game. Best bet for him, Bryan, going with Seattle with the plus money price on the money line. But guys, you really didn't think I was going to sign. You didn't really think I was going to sign off here without bringing up this game for the Philadelphia Phillies as they're taking on the Cincinnati Reds. I have a quota I must hit to bring up the Philadelphia Phillies, as you guys know. For me in this one, Phillies against lefties, first 5 under. It's the play for me. I kind of like the full game under. Bri, any thoughts here on Phillies and Reds?
I love the Cincinnati pitcher. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we got some loop back coming. I'll try and fix that for you.
Yeah,
Brian.
we got something coming back.
Should be good.
Let's just say I like Lodolo. He's been hot as hell, and I'll just keep it to that.
That's nice and simple there. Steve, any thoughts for you on this Phillies game? It's the first 5 under for me.
Yeah, I don't know if the live viewers were hearing the loop back there we were hearing, but it is fitting that we were getting that when you bring up the Phillies. It's like all the demons were released.
Like, what are we doing?
Talked about against the big red machine. Phillies bullpen is interesting, Dan. You look at their overall number this year, 74 innings, a 5.6 ERA, but they're 25 innings on the road at 2.5. So I don't quite know what to do with that, but the offense has not been there on the road. So could see a lower scoring game than expected. Cincinnati's a team that puts up runs. I talk about the Yankees. They're also an explosive team that doesn't necessarily put a lot of hits into play. 5.5 runs a game, but batting like 220 as a team. So I think something's about to give, and we're going to start to see more unders with Cincy. So I'd probably lean under in the game itself just for that reason.
Yeah, and that's the same look for me on that one. So the pitchers might be the star in the rubber match between the Phillies and the Cincinnati Reds. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what your favorite plays are this evening. A lot of folks in the chat liking the Phils on the money line. I cannot quite get there because it's all about how the bats giveth and the bats taketh away. And it seems like kind of throwing darts, trying to figure out which lineup the Phils are going to trot out there. Don't want to go all in on them against lefties. That's for darn sure. So big thanks to Steve Merril. Big thanks to Bryan Leonard. Again, those best bets, Seattle getting the plus money against Texas, and then the A's and the Yankees under the 8.5. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. If you haven't already, subscribe because you never want to miss any of the shows we're dropping here, the single game videos as well. You can check out the links in the description below if you want more, or Click on the video on your screen right this moment. Keep getting all that info you need to cash all the sports you love. It's what we do here at WagerTalk TV. Best of luck, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.